Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm up early and I'm excited to be filming with a brand new release from Natasha Denona. So I have the Natasha Denona Mini Biba eyeshadow palette as well as her Rose Cheek Duo. These were, I guess, announced a few days ago and then they just dropped on Sephora. So I went ahead and grabbed them and I paid expedited shipping. And here we are to hopefully film, edit, and upload today. So we're back on the grind with the new releases. I feel like November was new releases like every single day. It kind of slowed down in December, but now we're picking back up. So you can expect my regular content, but also just new releases when and if I can get videos out for you guys. So today we're going to be doing a tutorial, swatches, my first impressions on the new Mini Biba and this Rose Cheek Duo. So I will link all the products down below. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe. If you enjoy these videos where I review brand new products, give this a huge thumbs up. It really helps my channel out. And let's go ahead and begin. All right, we're all zoomed in. Let's talk about the products quickly and then we'll go into application. So let's start off with the Mini Biba palette. So this is the packaging. It's $25, available now at Sephora. It's a mini eyeshadow palette inspired by Natasha's best-selling Biba eyeshadow palette, featuring 5 all-new essential nude brown and coral shades in blendable textures. So these are all brand new shades, which I like because I know she recently came out with her mini Metropolis. I actually really loved that little palette and I have the original Metropolis, but there were some repeat shades and I just really feel like I like all new. So they are smaller pans, but to be honest, great for travel, great if you really don't want to break the bank. If you want to try out Natasha's formula, I feel like the minis are a great way to go. Looking at this shade seems to be a little out of place to me, the coral shade. I saw a lot of people saying that and I thought that too, only because the original Biba really doesn't have a coral or any kind of pinky shades in there. But, you know, who am I? I'm not Natasha, and Natasha knows her shit. And I do like this color story. I feel like this can give it a little bit of that like warmth and glowy like sunset look. So maybe that's where she was going. The rest of the palette is quite neutral. There is one cream to powder shade. So those are kind of like a hybrid where they're not a cream, they're not a powder, they're kind of in between. I actually really like them. They're really great for doing like a smoky winged liner. I feel like they're just a lot easier than a powder shadow. Because they have a little bit of that creaminess, they really stick and they don't fly all over. So that's going to be this one right here. These 3 are just the creamy mattes, so just mattes, and then this one is the metallic. So here are the swatches. It performed just like I thought it would. Natasha has one of the most creamy blendable formulas that I've ever tried. Also want to say this has a 24-month shelf life. It's also made in Italy, and the actual size of the palette is 0.8 grams per pan. So along with the Mini Biba palette, she released this Rose Cheek Duo Cream Blush and Highlighter. So this retails for $19, available at Sephora. It says a must-have mini cheek duo featuring 2 luscious new shades of Natasha's iconic cream blush and highlighter formulas with rosy radiant finishes. So these are also new colors, although they do look very similar, I have to say that. This is made in Italy, 18-month shelf life, and the actual size on this is 4 grams. So I think that is for both pans combined. I could be wrong, but it just says 4 grams on here. So the actual palette has this like rose gold packaging, and then you lift it up and you can see the 2 shades. So of course this is a mini palette. Now from reading this, I think they're both creams. So I'm gonna have to actually feel them because I know when she released her face glam palettes with like the eye and face products, there was a little bit of confusion. There was a cream blush, but a powder highlighter. Okay, so it's the same situation. And if you look closely on the packaging, it says the cream blush in warm rose, and then it says the super glow highlighting powder, light medium. So it's actually a powder. So you're gonna get a cream blush and a powder highlighter. You can definitely feel right away that the powder is a powder and the cream is her typical cream formula that is not super dewy. It almost feels similar to her cream to powder matte shadows. Definitely is a cream, but it's not going to be glowy, sticky, or heavy. It's almost like a matte cream. Now, in terms of comparisons, I actually turned my makeup collection upside down trying to find the original Biba palette, and for whatever reason, I can't find it. So I apologize for that. Last night when I was like getting ready for this video, I looked through my collection like 4 times and went through every palette. I looked through other rooms, just every drawer. I don't know what happened to it, so that's great. So I don't have that to actually compare, but when I look at the swatches on Sephora, and I'm gonna throw them up on the screen, comparing the mini Biba to the original, they look quite different to me. The original Biba was neutral with some cool tones mixed in, maybe a little bit of warm too, but it was kind of like neutral with the best of both worlds. Whereas this mini just seems very warm toned. I don't see any cool tones in here. This is definitely kind of throwing it off, I think, but I don't see the Biba palette in that one. So I thought that was a little strange. I do, however, want to compare the Rose Cheek Duo to the new Glam palettes that she came out with. So these are the Glam face palettes, and I did a review on both of these. This is the lighter color story, and you can see that the blushes in here look pretty similar. So I want to throw up some swatches comparing the blush and highlighter in both of the Glam face palettes, the light and dark, to the new one. And you can see from the swatches that the light Glam face palette very similar to the new Rose Cheek Duo. The highlighter in this little palette doesn't seem as intense. I feel like I had to build it up, so I want to just swatch it on my finger to show you the difference. It almost feels like it's going to get hard pan immediately, which I'm kind of confused by because the highlighter in these face Glam palettes were insane. So if you can see the difference here, I put the same amount of pressure, swatch the same way. This is the new Rose Cheek Duo, and then this is her Glam face palette. So when I swatch them on the back of my hand, you can definitely see here is the Rose Cheek Duo, and then here is the Glam face palette. So I feel like this new one is harder pressed and not as intense. I could tell immediately when you put your fingers in, you almost have to like really dig in. Whereas in this Glam face palette, you don't. I mean, it's like literally one swipe pigment. So that is something I definitely noticed. The blushes feel the same. They're very much like that dry cream formula. They're very easy to work with, but you have to build them up. So now let's go ahead and zoom in and start on an eye look. So I'm gonna go ahead and start out with the light sort of coral peachy shade, which is the shade that just seems kind of out of place. I felt like I saw a lot of people saying that. There is definitely kick up in this shade specifically, but it is pigmented. Actually, there's quite a bit of kick up in here, but it is pigmented because when I swatched it, like I was actually sort of, wow, it has a lot of pigment, and I love her formula, so people get really hyped about Natasha Denona because she has a lot of pretty color stories, but also her formula is just so easy to work with. I actually like coral shades and shades like this, but I don't necessarily like see the Biba palette in it, which is kind of strange. And I think it is just that one shade. Just seems like a strange addition. So that blended beautifully. I'm not surprised. I'm going into the cream to powder formula right here, and I'm going to use this on the outer corner and sort of blend in a little bit just to give a little bit of depth to the outer corner. But I feel like this formula is really nice. I know some people don't like it. I don't know if maybe in previous palettes the formula was more difficult to work with, but I've always been a fan of the cream to powder. So I'm just sort of putting it on the outer corner here, but then just blending into the crease. All right, so of course for the lid, I am going to be using the shimmery shade just to test it out. I'm gonna wet a brush, and I wanna do almost like a half cut crease. I just prefer on my eyes to have a defined lid color. So if I'm really gonna go for a metallic, I like to really do a cut crease sort of look, but I'm not gonna use concealer and all that. I'm just gonna use a brush and wet it so I can get more of a precise application. So I'm just gonna start applying it to the lid. And then a lot of the time I'll take a really small brush, like an eyeliner brush or something like that, to really get that definition. So I like to do something like that, and then I do want to go around the edges to make it a little bit more intense. So I am going to go back into that cream to powder shade, and I'm going to use a Rephr 23 and very lightly, like very lightly, sketch around where I just put that shimmer. So I just sketch around it just to give a little bit more definition. And then I'm going to mix actually this tan shade with this cream to powder shade. I'm going to use a Smith 233, and I just want to blend it to make it less harsh. So now I'm going to go ahead and attempt to do a wing with this deep chocolate shade. I hope that it's dark enough, just because sometimes to go over like everything I have going on, it might not be. And if so, then I'll just have to go in with a liner, but I am going to attempt it just so we can use this shade. Okay, so I ended up switching to a different brush. This is a ColourPop L1, and I did get it wet just because I felt like it wasn't deep enough to go over all of this without a little bit of help. So I went off camera and threw some lashes on. I will link them down below, as well as the other makeup that I put on. I basically put on everything but blush, highlight, and then I want to finish off the eyes. So I'm going to go back into the palette, and I think I'm going to use the deepest shade here. I'm just going to use it dry and apply this just on the outer half of my lower lash line. And then I'm going to go back into this light coral shade with a brush I used before. And I'm just going to blend a little bit underneath. And then for the inner corner, I am going to go into the metallic shade. Why not? Mine looks all busted up because I kept wetting it. And I'm just going to apply this just right in the inner corner dry. Okay, so eyes are done. I want to move in to the Rose Cheek Duo. So I'm going to start off with the blush. I like to use a damp beauty blender to apply this. Now this formula is more of a matte cream formula, which is not really what you usually see. It's not dewy. You kind of have to press hard to get in there. So I'm going to pretty heavily push my sponge in there, and typically I would sort of tap it off on the back of my hand, but because these are buildable and because it is a harder pressed formula, I know that I don't really have to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start applying. So you can see like very light and it's matte, which is not typical for a cream. So I'm going in for a second layer and I'm like really digging in there. So this is not a formula that you have to be careful with. So this is what 2 layers looks like. I'm going in with a third. So if you're familiar with like the Patrick Ta formula, the cream formula, this is totally different. They both do work beautifully over powder, but this is not glowy at all and it's not as pigmented. So this is one you really got to build up, which could be good for beginners, or it could be tedious if you really don't want to build it up. So I'm just sort of blending, and it's really pretty. I mean, I really like it. It's just one of those that you really got to keep building, for me at least, because I like a lot of blush. I'm not noticing any patching or anything like that, although she did say this was universal. I don't know if I would say it would be, like for deeper skin tones. I don't know, just because, you know, I did about 3 or 4 layers and this is where I got. So let's go ahead and do the other side. So I just want to show you, this is what it looks like up close. There is a little bit of like a glittery glow in there, but it's not enhancing my texture. It's very subtle. So this is about 3 layers on each side, which is pretty much what I'm happy with. It's just very easy to use, but it definitely is a formula you have to build up. So now I want to go into the highlighting side, and I had mentioned when I first swatched these, this feels just more sheer and a little bit more hard panned than the ones in her Face Glam palette. So I'm just going to use a clean brush. Okay, so I find it to be really pretty, to be honest. I don't know, I feel like you can build it up, but it does appear more sheer in my opinion upon first swipe. It's pretty beautiful, to be honest. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. So this is what the highlight and blush look like. Honestly, I like it better than I thought I would. Just applying it to the face, I like it a lot more than when I swatched it. All right, guys, so this is the look I came up with using the new products from Natasha Denona, and I want to go over my initial first impression, starting out with the mini Biba palette. I like it, but I don't think that I'm blown away by it. There's a couple things I would have changed. These two shades are just very similar in depth, so for me personally, I would use this or this as a transition. I wish this would have been maybe deeper so that you could have started out with this and then deepened it. I just feel like they're so similar tone-wise that you kind of don't need to use both. Also, I wish that the cream to powder formula would have been the deepest shade because I did end up wetting the deepest shade, which is just a standard powder matte, to be able to use it as liner. But that's just my personal thoughts on it. I don't really see Biba in this, and I think this shade is just throwing everything off. I personally would have loved to see maybe a smoky gray in there, something to change it up a little bit and give you more versatility, because I do feel like you kind of only have a couple options here. I mean, I know there's only 5 shades, but you're really gonna have that sort of pinky romantic look if you go with the coral, or you're just gonna have like a standard, you know, brown tan look. So I like it, not sure if I love it. So overall, I think it's a pretty color story, but it's nothing unique. I think if you don't have a lot of Natasha Denona, or you have none at all and you really want to try out her formula, the minis are a great way to go. For someone like me with my huge collection, I don't know if this is something that I'll reach for a lot. I do tend to prefer the midi palettes, but I do understand a lot of people just want something that is small and curated so they can just kind of do the same look every day that makes them feel good. Moving on to the cheek duo, I personally really like it, and I think the reason I do is because I prefer pink blushes, pink lip products. I like pink eyeshadow, and I know a lot of people don't. So again, I don't think this would be universal just because this is really a light shade. And then you mix that with the fact that these are buildable, they're very sheer. I just don't see people over like a medium skin tone really enjoying this. I also think that it is pink. It doesn't really read rose to me. It's very pink, which is why I probably like it. I would say it's like a cool toned pink shade. You have to build these up. They are a little bit dry, so they're very easy to use, very buildable, but it can be tedious to have to do like 4 layers when you just want to like throw your blush on and go. The highlight actually surprised me. When I swatched it, it felt kind of hard panned and like very sheer, but it actually did, you know, blend out to be a beautiful glowing highlight. I think you can go more sheer with this one, whereas the ones in her face and eye glam palettes, I feel like one stripe and it's like bam in your face. So I actually like this, but I do think just comparing this to her other blushes, it seems like she does a lot of the same colors, like that pinky, rose, maybe a little bit of that terracotta mixed in. I would really love to see like oranges or burnt terracottas or just different colors, even mauve, something different, because I do feel like when you do look at all of her blushes, they all do look quite similar. But I like this collection. I'm not in love. Like, I don't think I'm wowed, blown away, but I think it's a cute collection. For those of us that have a ton of Natasha Denona cheek duos, cheek palettes, eyeshadow palettes, you may want to skip on this collection just because I do feel it's pretty repetitive if you have a lot of her palettes. All right, guys, so that is everything for this first impressions and tutorial on the new Natasha Denona releases. Let me know down below, did you pick this up? Are you passing? What are your thoughts on my eye look or how these products applied? I really want to hear your thoughts. I will be sure to do more first impressions on new products that are coming out. I'm always waiting for new stuff to drop, and it drops like that. So I'm always ready and waiting. Let me know if there's anything you want me to review coming up. I will continue to test these products out and of course come back and give you my full thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.